Remember that morning of October 20th? You probably woke up, grabbed your phone like any other day, and nothing. Your Ring doorbell was offline, Snapchat wouldn't load a thing, even your Starbucks app was completely dead. It seriously felt like the entire internet just decided to take the day off. So, what on earth happened? What caused that massive digital blackout? Well, let's get into it. So, here's the plan. We're going to walk through the absolute chaos of that morning. Then, we'll introduce you to the invisible company that was behind it all and break down the technical chain reaction that actually caused the failure. And then, things get interesting. We'll look at another huge, mysterious outage just days before and ask the big question: what does all of this tell us about our incredibly fragile digital world? All right, let's kick things off with what pretty much everyone felt that morning. That confusing, super frustrating moment when it felt like our digital lives just stopped. I mean, this was the real head-scratcher for everybody, right? How could so many totally different, unrelated apps and services all just die at the exact same moment? We're talking gaming, banking, social media. The lights just went out everywhere. And the scale of this was just staggering. We're talking about social media giants, payment apps like Venmo, your smart home devices, massive gaming platforms like Fortnite, and even Netflix. Seriously, even your Duolingo lesson wasn't safe. And this is just a short list. The outage hit over 1,000 companies in total. To put a real number on all that frustration, check this out. Users filed over 6.5 million outage reports on the tracking site Down Detector. That is a colossal wave of disruption, all pointing back to one single source. Which brings us to the culprit. And it's a company most people have probably never even heard of, but it acts as a kind of digital landlord for a huge chunk of the internet we use every single day. Say hello to Amazon Web Services, or AWS. The absolute best way to think about it is like an invisible scaffolding that holds up the internet. See, instead of building their own really expensive data centers, companies like Netflix and Reddit just rent server space and computing power from Amazon. And make no mistake, they are the biggest landlord on the block by a long shot. AWS controls about 30% of the entire global cloud market. And that huge market share is precisely why a problem at AWS doesn't just stay at AWS. It sends a massive shockwave across the entire digital world. You know, Marie Jasparidis, the CTO at NordVPN, just put it perfectly. He said outages like this highlight a really serious issue. When one domino falls, they all do. And that's exactly what we saw. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. How exactly did that first domino fall? We're going to unpack the technical cascade of failures that happened deep, deep inside AWS's systems. The earthquake started right here, in a region that's known as US East 1. This is Amazon's massive data center hub in Northern Virginia. And it's not just big, it is one of the most critical pieces of internet infrastructure on the entire planet. Okay, so according to Amazon's own report, here's the chain reaction. It all started with a DNS issue. You can think of DNS as the internet's address book. Well, that broke a database service. Because that database service was broken, the system that launches virtual servers for all those apps, a service called EC2, also failed. And that failure then took out the network load balancers, which are kind of like the internet's traffic hops. The result? A complete and total meltdown. And the timeline to fix this whole mess was just immense. The first errors were spotted just before midnight, but it took engineers over 15 hours to fully get all services back to normal. A tiny technical trigger led to a day-long crisis for pretty much the whole internet. But here's where the story gets even weirder. Because that AWS meltdown, it wasn't the only major outage that week. Just 4 days earlier, another one of the internet's absolute giants had a major stumble of its own. Yep, on October 16th, it was YouTube's turn. Millions of people all over the world were suddenly staring at error messages instead of videos. Another massive global disruption just days before the AWS event. So let's look at the details on this one. The YouTube incident hit hundreds of thousands of users with those infamous playback errors. And just like the AWS event, it was global. But here's the really crucial part. While Google did confirm the problem was fixed, it has never, ever released an official cause for what happened. It is still a complete mystery. So of course, this led to all kinds of speculation. I mean, were these two massive outages hitting two of the world's biggest tech companies just days apart? Was that just a wild coincidence? Or was there some kind of connection? When you actually lay the facts out side by side, the picture gets a little clearer, but maybe not more satisfying. We have different dates, different companies, and a confirmed internal technical issue for the AWS outage versus a big old question mark for YouTube. Officially, there is no confirmed link between them. None. Now, online forums were just buzzing with theories about coordinated cyber attacks or something bigger going on. But the evidence, it just isn't there. The official AWS report points the finger squarely at an internal technical failure. And for YouTube, we're still completely in the dark. So let's zoom out, because honestly, whether these events were connected or not, they both teach us a really powerful lesson about the hidden fragility of the modern world we live in. As Betsy Cooper from the Aspen Institute put it, you really see just how dependent you are on a handful of those companies. It's super convenient to have everything run by a few major players, right up until the moment something goes wrong. This is the reality of the internet's backbone. When one single company like AWS, which, remember, powered over 1,000 of the affected businesses in this one incident alone, when they have a bad day, huge chunks of our economy and society just grind to a halt. And that really leaves us with a final critical question to think about. We often talk about certain banks or industries being too big to fail. But after seeing how quickly everything can unravel, maybe the real question we should be asking is this: is our internet built on too few companies to truly succeed?